Happy Friday. There is no Google Meet today because I am not in the building. So you're going to complete Lesson 13 Desmos and the practice problems in Schoology for Lesson 13 today. I made a quick little video here to go over the Desmos if you need some help. Before we start, I just want to remind you that next week I will get to see you in person at school. So for those of you that are coming on Monday, Tuesday, I will see you then. For those of you that are home on Monday, Tuesday, it is very important that you check Schoology on Monday and on Tuesday. You will need to go to my course. You will need to click the folder at the top of the page, and you will need to click on the folder for Monday and complete those assignments, and then click on Tuesday and complete those assignments. You must do this independently on your own. When you come back on Thursday, we will be starting something new, so it's important that the work from Monday and Tuesday is completed. Please also remember that I won't have much access to email as I will be teaching the other students those days. So you need to work independently, and then I will get to see you guys on Thursday and Friday. All right, so we are doing a lesson on congruence today, and we've been talking about that this unit. We're on page 90 of your workbook. So we've talked a little bit about corresponding points, and so this one just shows you two trapezoids. The original image is on the left, and the image on the right is the one with the prime marks. So it asks you to match the points that are corresponding from the original image over here to the translated image. So I'm going to start with this one. Here is E, and this is E prime. So E prime has to go over to the translated image, and it's going to go in the same direction, or same position here, excuse me. F prime is going to go in the same position as the original image, which is right here. G is from the original image, so it's got to match up with G prime. And then H also is with the original image, and so it has to match up with H prime. So again, we can see that it's a translation. It started on the left, and it just moved to the right. And the original image is marked here, and the new image is marked with the prime marks. Okay, here you just get to drag these points wherever you want. I will do one example. It doesn't matter where you put the corresponding points as long as they match. So I'm going to move point P down here, which means that P prime has to be over here. Okay, it doesn't matter. I just randomly chose. So now you need to choose where Q and Q prime go and R prime go. It can be anywhere you like. You get to pick their positions. Okay. On this screen, it's asking you if the ovals are congruent, meaning could you perform a rigid transformation that takes one oval to the other? So you're going to decide what happens there. You might want to use your line tools to kind of mark some things here. If you remember, we have to have the same features. Okay, so I can't exactly measure these ovals. I don't have anything to measure them with, but I could do something like this, and then I could count the side lengths. Okay, so this one encases, this rectangle around here has a side length of 3 and 2. Right, and then I can use my line tool again. I can try this one over here. It's just one strategy. If you had tracing paper, you could use tracing paper on top of them to see if they are congruent, if they match up after a transformation. And then I can see that this one is also going to have those same measurements around here. So those two are definitely congruent to each other. So then we need to determine if the other ones are congruent. So I will use that same concept. Oops, that didn't work out so well. Okay. No, I'm not so. There we go. All right, this is just one strategy. If you have your tracing paper still from when you picked up your workbook, you can certainly use that too. All right, and then you can measure these, and I would say this one is probably like about 2.5. I don't have my writing tablet with me tonight. And then this one over here, we're going to call it about 2. All right, and then if you use that same concept, you can see that this one is going to have the same side lengths. So again, just a different concept, looking at these rectangles that I could draw around it. Okay, and I can see then again that this one has a side length of 2.5 and this one has a side length of 2. Okay, so again, it's just about those corresponding sides. Are they the same? I could have measured a distance across the oval in both directions and measured those if I had a ruler. So because we have this, we know then that this top one matches this one over here. And then we know that these two down here are congruent. So yes, they are congruent, but you have to prove it, right? And so I could say here, from the blue one to the red one, I could do a counterclockwise rotation. I could do another rotation, either clockwise or counterclockwise for these down here. So yes, those are congruent to each other. So please explain your thinking. All right, and then this is a little activity I want you to work on about corresponding points. I'll get you started on it, but I won't do the whole thing with you. So you have two congruent shapes, and they ask you to draw the points corresponding to B, D, and E over here in black. So you're going to make your line, your pen color a different color, and you need to find these corresponding points. So you need to think about which direction this moved in its transformation. So I can kind of look at the shape here, and I can say, well, it looks like B is probably over here. And I can label that over here, so that's going to become B prime. And then we also have to measure, we have to label D prime and E prime. So if I look here in this kind of what looks like the little inset here, I can see here that we have D prime right here, and then we have E prime right here. So here's D prime, and then here's E prime. So again, you're just matching up those corresponding points after it looks like I've done some kind of rotation here. All right, then it wants me to draw line segments, AD and AD prime in red. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to go from A to D. So I'm just going to connect a line segment here. And then I'm going to go and do the same thing on the other side, but this time I'm going to go from A prime to D prime. All right, then it wants me to do green now for BC and B prime, C prime. So I'm going to connect these points here, and then come down here and connect these points here. And last but not least, they want me to use purple, my favorite color, and we're going to go from A to E and from A prime to E prime. Okay, now remember that it told us that these shapes were congruent, okay? And so they have these corresponding points. We know the measurements are going to be the same here. What we've never done, though, is we've never really measured across. We always measure the outside lengths or the areas or perimeters or angles. So here, I want you to now fill out this chart. So if you know that the side length or the length across from A to D is 3 centimeters, what do you predict the side length from A prime to D prime will be? When you fill in your table, don't put centimeters, just put the number and it'll tell you if you're right or wrong. Then you are going to also look at the segment from B to C. If you know B to C is 2.5, then what do you think the segment length from B prime to C prime is? And then from A to E, if you know it's 1.5, then what is A prime to E prime? So I'm going to let you work through that and figure that out. Again, remembering they're congruent, so none of the measurements should change. All right, and then the question here is, do you think there could be a pair of corresponding segments in these figures that have different lengths? Okay, so would there be any way that you could ever have different lengths here if you're using corresponding segments? I'll let you think about that question. And then here, these are some faces. I want you to look at these and think, decide if they're congruent. Make sure that you're looking at all parts of the shape here. And then finally, using everything you have learned here, tell me if you think these figures are congruent. You've got your drawing tools here, so you decide if these are congruent here or not, and you can use your tools to help you decide. And then again, one more question on congruence. So when you are finished, make sure you've answered all the questions and hit submit, and then don't forget to go back and do your practice problems. Have a great weekend, and I will see you at school next week.